Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times, black coffee times. So today I am here basically to talk to you about some of the favorite things of mine that I have watched in 2021.
It's coffee time!
So in 2021, I did not have much access to cinemas due to lockdowns, etc. And I tried my best to watch as much horror and thrillers as I could. And I ended up watching a total of 36 movies that were thrillers and horrors that came out in 2021. So I have compiled a list of some of my favorites. Now, these are not per se the best movies when it comes to, the ones that were really perfection. It's just movies that in one way or another either surprised me or made me enjoy the movie a lot, even though some of them had some flaws. I'm gonna start also with a special mention to two movies that I really loved that are not thriller or horror movies, but I'm just quickly gonna mention them here for you. And then I have 10 movies that I would recommend you to check out that came out in 2021. The first special mention goes to a movie that made me laugh in the cinema like I have not laughed in years, and that is Free Guy. This is kind of a new take on The Truman Show. But kind of to bring it to younger generations now, and it's all based on a game, and one of the characters of the game one day realizes that he is a character in the game. I laughed so hard in the cinema. It's such a fun movie. Sometimes the pacing is a little bit off, but it's just so much fun that I would definitely consider this a movie that I would rewatch for comfort anytime, and if you have not checked it out yet, I do recommend it. Then I would like to talk about Seobok. This is a South Korean movie, and it is an action slash sci-fi movie that I watched at the Fantasy Film Fest, and I really enjoy it, even though it doesn't have anything that makes this movie fresh and original. I absolutely loved how much heart it had, and if you're interested in science fiction in the terms of, cloning humans and gene mutation and all of that, I definitely recommend you guys to give it a try. It might be a little bit slow paced at the beginning, but let me tell you that it does pay off at the end. And now let's go to my 10 favorite movies of 2021. Like I've said, it doesn't mean that these movies are the ones with the best quality. It's just the movies that made me had the best time in 2021. And we can all agree that it is a year where we needed some fun, we needed some comfort. The movies are also in no particular order, but the first one that I would like to talk to you about is one of my favorites that I know a lot of people hate, but it is what it is, and that is Willy's Wonderland. It follows a quiet drifter whose car breaks down and is tricked into cleaning up an abandoned family entertainment center haunted by 8 murderous animatronic characters. So in the recent years, I have discovered my love for Nicolas Cage, as I believe many of us have, especially after I saw him in Mandy. I knew that I just was going to love the things that, like, his career choices from then on, and I have not been wrong. And Willy's Wonderland was fantastic. I got to see a Nicolas Cage that basically was this badass guy that didn't even speak throughout the whole movie. And one of my favorite things about this film was that the humor didn't come from your overused jokes that we all know, but it was kind of more of a physical comedy. It was through small things that it was funny, and I think that's why it became one of my favorites of last year. Also, there is some nice gore, and the animatronics were just so much fun. But if you go into this movie, don't expect too much when it comes, to the plot, storyline, or anything like that. It's just a movie to have fun, and as such, it really succeeded for me. The movie also uses many horror cliches, but like I said, I was not bothered at all, and I just enjoyed the fact that whatever happened in the background, Nicolas Cage was committed to clean that space. And from a movie that uses horror cliches to its advantage, let's talk about number 2 on my list, because it also uses a lot of cliches and a lot of tropes of the horror genre, and it's another movie that a lot of people hated, but I absolutely loved, and that is Malignant. This is an original story by James Wan, and I was extremely excited to see him in a project that he created apart from the Conjuring universe. Madison, a young woman, is terrified by visions of the murders of strangers. Later on, Madison decides to find and save those victims. So when Madison gets these visions, she becomes paralyzed, and she's just a mere spectator, and she can only watch as the killer is killing their victims. And she decides to team with the police to help them find this killer. So there is little that I can tell you about this movie without spoiling the fun for you, but it has been said that it has a lot of giallo elements, and I can see that. And the thing about this movie is that the humor is self-aware a little bit, and it is a movie that it is on purposely bad. Like, the script is bad at times, the acting is bad at times, but that is completely on purpose, and it was refreshing. And I just had a blast from the beginning to the end in the cinema, and I just love the background story of it all as well. And definitely one of the movies that I'm going to be rewatching for years to come. The next movie that I would like to talk to you about is a movie that I am aware it has many flaws, and I'm aware that it doesn't bring something extremely new to the table. But when I watched this movie, I felt myself extremely enjoying it and finding that some of the simplicity of the story that I know from other horror thrillers, it didn't even bother me because I was so invested with the main characters, and that is Son. When a young boy falls ill to a mysterious illness, his mother must decide how far she will go to protect him from terrifying forces in her past. So this movie definitely relies a lot more on the atmosphere than in logics. I know that this movie is flawed, and like I said, it is something that is predictable, but I just found this compelling story of a mother that is going to do anything in order to protect and save her son. I just absolutely love that kind of journey that our main character goes through. And I definitely was in love as well with some of the violence that the movie gives us. And I just think that the main actress here, she was just so good that it definitely elevated this film for me. Sometimes you might find movies that you know are flawed, but all in all, they make you have a really good time. They have a compelling story with a lot of heart, and they take you along for the ride. And even though some things are predictable to you, you still enjoy these movies. And I haven't heard so many people talking about this particular film, so I just wanted to bring it up here in this video because honestly, from the movies that I watched last year in the Fantasy Film Fest, this is one of the ones that I enjoyed the most. The next film that I have for you is one that I did not expect to see in this list, to be honest. I wanted to watch it. I was really curious to see what they were going to do with this one, and I ended up loving it so much. I was confused, and that is Till Death. So Emma is married to Mark, but they are in a very unhappy marriage. So Emma is really surprised when Mark decides to take her for a romantic evening in a secluded house. But everything changes the next morning when she finds herself handcuffed to Mark's dead body, trapped and isolated in the dead of winter. I think the success of this movie relies on a couple of different factors. First of all, some movies like this one are really simple, but they work really well because of that simplicity. If it's done well, which is not easy, then you get a fantastic, thrilling and engaging movie. Another thing that really worked in this film was Megan Fox. She was fantastic. The role that she took for this movie is something that of course we've seen done many times before, but the way she approached it, perhaps because she has not had a role like this before, was fantastic. And it is a movie that basically takes place most of the time in the secluded lake house, and you don't get bored, like not even for a minute. It's full of tension, and it is a perfect thriller based on this perfect, you know, winter cozy scenario, and just everything worked in this film. So if you have not checked it out yet, make sure to check it out. The next film I would like to talk to you about is not exactly horror, but I was really excited about this film since you guys know that I'm always interested in true crime stories, and this film was again another one that was very simple but extremely effective, and that is No Man of God. In 1980, Ted Bundy was sentenced to death by electrocution. In the years that followed, he agreed to disclose the details of his crimes, but only to one man. Bill Hackmeyer, played by Elijah Woods, is the man that is chosen by Ted Bundy, and they end up having these interviews together. It starts at the beginning a little bit like, you know, Hannibal Lecter kind of thing, but it evolves, and Bill Hackmeyer ends up kind of having a weird sort of friendship, I guess, with Ted Bundy. And the way that Ted Bundy here is portrayed, I really enjoyed, because you can see that he's just a man. He is not being glorified like in other films. And at the end of the day, you kind of even feel pity for him. And this movie is not going to be for everybody. It's very slow paced. It's mostly just interviews between Ted Bundy and Bill Hackmeyer. So I feel like this is going to be a movie that people are going to enjoy if they're really into true crime as I am, or if you love slow burning, you know, interview movies, because it's mostly just that. I feel this movie works so well because it was just intimate and pure and simple, and it was just a man kind of fighting his demons in his head, and it does give Ted Bundy a great portrayal here. Definitely better than other movies that I have seen based on Ted Bundy. The next movie that I have on this list might be a surprise for you guys, because when I reviewed this movie, I was not 100% in love with it. But when I was reviewing all of the films that I had watched in 2021, I decided that this one did deserve a spot on this list, because the cinematography and other things in this movie are actually really good, and that is A Classic Horror Story. This new Italian Netflix movie brought us basically the tropes and things that we've seen in Cabin in the Woods and Midsommar and kind of mashed them together. Our story starts like many other slasher movies. We basically have a group of 5 friends that are traveling in a van, and they crash the van and find themselves suddenly in the middle of the woods, and the only thing that they have near them is this weird cabin that they decide to go in to investigate. This is a movie where the characters are self-aware about their situation. It's a movie that combines a lot of different horror tropes, and I feel like at the moment when I watched this movie, I just felt a little bit frustrated because it felt like it just copied a lot of different movies and mashed them all together. But when I reflected about this film, I realized that the work that they put, you know, with the soundtrack, the cinematography, and actually integrating a Italian folklore story into the mix was actually not that bad. And I've been thinking of rewatching this movie because I believe now I would probably give it a higher rating. And towards the end, the movie takes a turn. A lot of people are gonna love it, a lot of people are gonna hate it. For me, I really love the second part the most. And I definitely recommend you guys to give it a watch if you haven't. I think I'm gonna rewatch this movie and see how I feel about it now. Have you ever guys like seen a movie and then maybe months later reconsider if maybe you were too harsh in judging it and maybe you enjoyed it more than you thought you did? Let me know in the comments down below. Next we have Fear Street 1978. So last summer Netflix released a trilogy based on the Fear Street books by Errol Stein, and the 3 movies were released in 1 week apart. My favorite one was the second movie that takes place in the 70s in Camp Nightwing, and yes, it did have many tropes from these type of slasher movies, but it also had something that other typical slashers don't have, which is it had a more serious tone and it had a lot of heart. We follow 2 sisters that are trying to fight against something evil that's coming to kill them while they're at this camp. I'm just trying not to reveal too much because I don't know if you guys have watched the trilogy. So basically what I can tell you is that this movie, even though it has a slow pace and it does focus a lot developing the story in order to get to part 3, it does have pretty good kills, and it does have an R rating, which I really appreciated for these movies, to be honest, because the books were PG-13, let's say, and there's a lot of things that you see in the movies that you would have never seen in the books, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, this one made it to my list. The next movie is another movie that I don't hear so many people talking about, and I do feel like it deserves a little bit more of love, and it's another movie that I saw on Netflix called Oxygen. A woman wakes up in a cryogenic chamber with no recollection of how she got there, what's her name, and she must find a way out before running out of air. This is another movie that was simple in many ways, and it also takes place basically in this chamber where this woman is trapped almost like a casket. And this was such a genius movie. You really feel claustrophobic with this film. You find yourself trying to think of ways that she could get out of there. You find yourself trying to figure out how did she end up there. And even though in the back of your head you kind of predict what's gonna happen, the tension that the movie manages to build is fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. I'm definitely gonna be checking out more things by the director. And if you have not checked it out yet, please do. This is one of those slow-paced movies that basically only has one character, but it is fantastic. And sometimes, you know, that's all you need. You just need a slow burn sci-fi. Talking about slow burn movies and movies that I don't hear too many people talking about, if you have not noticed, it's kind of a theme for me in this video. We have The Power, and this is a British horror movie. We're in London in 1974, and Britain is preparing for electrical blackouts to sweep across the country, and we have a nurse in training, Val, that arrives for her first day at the crumbling East London Royal Infirmary. Most of the patients have already been evacuated, and she finds herself taking the night shift. This movie, like I said, is really slow paced and it has a slow build up, but what this movie really accomplishes is to create a fantastic, terrific atmosphere. It is creepy, it is unsettling, and it is just so simple in a way. And I have never seen a horror movie based on these events in London in the 70s, and it's such a missed opportunity. This is a low-budget movie with a simple message, but worth hearing that message, worth going through all of the creepiness. It's definitely well acted, well put together, and definitely really creepy. Just imagine being a young nurse taking the night shift in a nearly deserted hospital when things start lurking in the dark. And of course, I could not leave out of the list one of the newest A24 releases, The Green Knight. King Arthur's headstrong nephew embarks on a daring quest to confront the Green Knight, a mysterious giant who appears at Camelot. Risking his head, he sets off on an epic adventure to prove himself before his family and court. And I say this a lot, but this one is definitely not going to be for anybody. This is a true A24 Essence film, and it is a really slow burner. It might be a little bit longer than it should have had for my taste, and it is a movie kind of that takes our main character on a journey of self-discovery. So our main character is being put through a lot of tests and things that he needs to solve, and each time he gets one of these confrontations, he ends up learning something about himself. It is a movie that a lot of people are going to consider a little bit too trippy and weird. Like I said, not really for everybody. It can also feel a little bit repetitive at times, but this is just a masterpiece in my opinion, and of course it had to make it to this list. And I would like to quickly mention a couple of TV shows that were my favorites from the ones that I have watched in 2021. So quickly, Squid Game, of course. I did not expect to love this show as much as I did. It was not only fun, but it was full of great messages. The characters were amazing. It is just incredible how they managed to make us care for so many different characters that didn't have so much screening time. And I just did not see that twist coming. Absolutely loved it. I don't know what's gonna happen with season 2, but I'm still really excited about it. And it's definitely one of those TV shows that I just, you know, clicked on start the day that it landed on Netflix just to see out of curiosity, and I just could not stop watching. Of course, The Witcher season 2, I had been dying to watch this. I think I watched season 1 3 or 4 times already, so I was ready for this one. And if you don't know, The Witcher is based on a series of books and video games, of course. If you don't know what The Witcher is about, we follow Geralt de Rivia. He is a mutant, and we follow him and Ciri that have been linked together by destiny. And we also follow, of course, another bunch of characters. And Witchers are basically paid to get rid of monsters. So monsters is something that you get to see a lot in this series. I absolutely loved season 2 because we get to see a lot more of the Witchers and a lot more cool creatures. I feel like season 1 was kind of building up the characters and their relationships, and it was kind of setting up a base so that the viewer could understand things that are going to happen later. And now in season 2, I think I love this one even more because we really got to explore a lot more what it means to be a Witcher, and we got, you know, a deeper look into each of our characters' lives and motives. And that twist at the end of season 2, I kind of expected it at some point because of something that happened before in the show. I'm not gonna spoil it, but now it has left me too excited for season 3, and I don't know how long I'm gonna have to wait for it. So next we have Midnight Mass. Not much that I have to say about this. I have a full video talking about this, spoiler free, if you want to check it out. But this TV show has been one of my absolute favorites of all times. Please keep in mind this is very slow burning TV show, and you need to make it at least past episode 3 in order to be fully engaged if you're someone that don't like slow burning TV shows or movies. But this is the first time that Mike Flanagan did a show not based on any book or anything. It was an original story by him, and it was just such an incredible exploration of characters and humanity. It was insane. That ending, I mean, it's just fantastic. Please check it out if you have not checked it out yet. It basically follows a really small community in an island, and a new priest comes to the island, and as the new priest comes, also strange things start to happen in the community. I think it's better if you just go into it without knowing much. But if you have loved other things by Mike Flanagan, I do feel like you're gonna enjoy this. Brand new cherry flavor. I don't even know how to describe this TV show for you. I also have a full review on this without spoilers. But this is basically about a young girl that is trying to make her way in LA, and she's trying to make her own movie. And she meets with a producer and everything. And then things in her life take a turn and things get real weird real fast. This TV show is not going to be for everybody because it's really weird. It does touch a little bit on magical stuff, but I thought it was genius and so original. It's something that I had never seen done before. Definitely recommend you to check it out if you haven't yet. And the other show that I would like to mention is the Chestnut Man. We have so many limited series that are thrillers on Netflix and other channels, but this one had something really special because it did everything right, everything that a good thriller needs to have. It gave you so many twists and turns. It had amazing scenery. It has this cozy fall vibe, and it's a show that's gonna keep you guessing. It's a show that has great fleshed out main characters, and every murder that happened is more brutal than the last one. So the premise is simple. We have a series of murders and the police are investigating, and they think that all of these murders are interconnected because the victims all have next to them these little figures made out of chestnut, the Chestnut Man. And yeah, I really enjoyed it more than I expected. I expected just a standard, you know, thriller, but I think this one is for everybody that loves a cozy thriller. Alright guys, so these are some movies and a couple of TV shows that I really enjoyed in 2021. I hope that you found something here maybe that was not on your radar or something that you still have on your watch list. Let me know down below what is the best TV show or movie that you checked out that came out in 2021. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you all as always in our next coffee time. Bye!